Okay, now we're done.
In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that the land upon which our organization stands is unceded Mi'kmaq territory. At the Quid PEI, Mi'kmaq is covered by the historic treaties of peace and friendship. We pay our respects to the indigenous Mi'kmaq people who have occupied this land for over 12,000 years, past, present, and future.
Declaration of conflict of interest.
None here.
They don't have to work on it. Okay, approval of agenda.
And there was one amendment to the agenda, which was item B, promotional items. Gary asked that. B.
I'm sorry, where's that at?
Item B,
B on
new
what
business.
number?
What about, we were gonna review the tree, the Christmas, the buoy tree,
Oh, yeah, they're
On-
supposed
in
to
June.
present.
our last meeting. We were gonna have word from Carol and them about
That's right.
what we were doing.
When we get into it, I can tell you a little bit about that.
What?
I can tell you a little bit about that.
Okay.
When we get her going.
Okay.
So if you want to add it.
Just,
Do you want to add it as C?
yeah,
Just yesterday, the information.
okay,
What am I calling that?
just the buoy tree or
Buoy tree?
whatever. Memorial tree.
Christmas tree.
No, it's B-U-O.
B-O-U,
Isn't it?
B-O-U-Y.
B-U-O-Y. Yes.
B-U-O-Y.
Yes.
I'll figure it out later.
Is this the wrong B?
That was on your-
Okay.
Down the bottom.
So,
So,
ready to move?
I do.
Second.
all in favor?
So is that approving the agenda? All in
Yes.
favor? Yes.
Approval of minutes of the regular council meeting of April 14th, 2025.
I have a question. On number 11D, Christmas gifts to village employees, my point was that we keep I realize that it's the councilor's gift to the employees, not the council's gift, and that we keep it clear of council, credit card, and reimbursements. I know there was some confusion last year. That must have been a terrible paper trail to follow and keep track of. So that we just need to make it a cash donation from the councilors, not from the council, if we wish to give a gift to the staff.
So how would you like me to word that on the minutes? Just cash?
Well,
Cash donation
last year
councilors?
we got an email saying that the CAO's gift was going on the village credit card. When I said, how do I pay? I got some information and it went to Councillor Mukasey White's personal account, who will then have to transfer it to the village in times 6. And it was just really convoluted. So I'm saying that this year, let's just throw $20 in the hat.
Yeah.
If we, or to cover this.
I'll move for the adoption of the minutes.
All in favor?
I can second them.
Aye.
There.
I With Pantera.
Oh, that's.
Delegations, Tara Wheeler, ABCD certification 2024-25 audit.
All right, so you have the draft financial statements in front of you. The first page is management's report, just indicating that, the municipality itself is responsible for the information that's provided in these financial statements, and that, management, is responsible to, fulfill their obligations with financial reporting and report to council, and council is responsible for, appointing us as auditors. The next two pages is the auditor's report, which is the only code of statements that go on us as the auditors. Notice that it is a qualified opinion similar to last year. There was a standard that was put in place 2 years ago for asset retirement obligations, to which you would have to evaluate all of the properties to see if there's any possibility of asbestos that would have to be cleaned up. That hasn't been done yet, so we qualify in the audit opinion that as far as everything else is presented fairly in material respects, except for the fact that we don't know if there's an asset retirement obligation that should have been put in place. And that's within accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. The rest of the report indicates management's responsibilities and then the auditor's responsibilities. That brings us to page number 3 on the bottom, which is the statement of financial position or the balance sheet, where it outlines the assets and the liabilities for the consolidated municipalities. This includes the municipality, the sewer utility, and the fire department. They're all included in these numbers here. So when you're looking at total financial assets, it's 322,000, down from 435,000 in the previous period. The largest decrease you'll see is just above that total financial asset line is restricted cash. So it was $155,000 last year, $39,000 this year. That restricted cash is money that's set aside for the gas tax funding that's received for the capital projects. So in 2025, there's actually no receipt of funding for the new agreement in the bank account, but there was $128,000 in capital expenditures. So that's why you're seeing the cash balance go down.
Is it coming in? Well, we have a deposit. Is there money coming in that just hasn't been caught in this period to balance that?
Because we weren't fully allocated, we didn't get a disbursement, but we should get 2 disbursements this fall, or this spring.
So that'll catch up that.
$100,000.
Thank you.
On the liability side, accounts payable and accrued liabilities, that's just generally timing of payables that are going in and out. Deferred revenue, so that is kind of the opposite side of the restricted cash. There's $29,000 left of the gas tax funding that hadn't been spent at that point in time, at March 31st. Long-term debt, there's 3 loans that the municipality has, and they're just being paid down as required. No, nothing unusual there. So that was your total liabilities of $275,000, down from $404,000 the previous period, which brings your net financial assets increasing to $47,000 from $30,000 the year before.
Is a straightforward question. Our loans that have been paying down, actually, when are they going to be paid?
2040.
2040.
Seems forever.
I'll be dead. Don't say that.
Then the last part of the statement there is your non-financial assets. So this is your little bit of prepaid expenses, and the bulk of your assets are your capital assets. So prepaid expenses, that is mostly prepaid insurance. So that's just the time of insurance payments. If you pay in January for the full 12 months, but your March year end, there's 9 months of prepaid insurance. Your tangible capital assets is $3.3 million, up from $3.16 the year before. There was total additions of $255,000 with regards to capital assets, and those assets are what we call amortized or expensed over its expected useful life. So that resulted in a decrease of $110,000, which is your net $145,000 increase in your capital assets. The next page, the transition page, is your cumulative surplus at the beginning of the year to your plus your annual surplus, which we'll see the details on the next page. Your cumulative surplus at the end of the year. So your annual surplus is on the next page, page number 5. So this is your income statement of operations. total revenue for the year is 409,000 from 329,000 the year before. So that's an increase of about $80,000. I'll just highlight, you'll see property taxes is up about $10,000, but the major reason for the increase is on your government transfers other line. It's $56,000 compared to just under $6,000 the year before. There was additional funding from the province to help with legal fees this year, about $50,000, and that's the main reason for the increase there. Your rent and other is up a bit as well, 51,000. The majority of that increase is the new grab and go revenue that's coming in. So that was about a $16,000 increase there.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah.
16.
On the expense side of things, it's increased as well, 478,000 from 375,000 the previous period. Most of that increase you're seeing under the general government line of about $97,000 general government expenses. The majority of that increase is in professional fees, so you have the revenue helping to cover professional fees costs above, so you have the cost actually in the general government.
So that's a lot of professional fees. What are we speaking of specifically?
Legal fees.
Legal fees.
Yeah.
And what are we passing on to the province in that, and what are we retaining here?
I think Anne should answer that.
I think the auditor just spoke to it. But, yeah.
Sorry, what is the question?
Well, we have this huge increase in legal fees, and a few meetings ago, we mentioned that our legal fees have been passed on to the government.
Right.
So this is still outstanding for the village in addition to what we passed on to the government?
No, so it just kind of equals out. It's an income up here and an expense down here. So we pay it, we get reimbursed.
So we pay the legal fees and the government's reimbursing us on top of that?
Well, they're reimbursing us for the legal fees.
Okay.
So it zeroes out for us.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have the expense on the government, general government expense line. You have the revenue coming in from the province, coming in under the government transfers other line.
Because we didn't budget for legal fees this year. Should we have?
I think it depends on it being fully covered from the province this year as well. Because if it nets out to zero, it's not really gonna affect your budget, right? Because it's netting out, it's in and out.
We even heard that they won't cover as of now.
The other item that increased in general government was repairs and maintenance of about $13,000. The rest of it was pretty consistent increases, or staying the same. Municipal center and recreations increased $80,000 from $63,000 above. The grab and go had expenses, about $3,000 I believe is there. Again, the revenue is up above, so the expense is in your expense line. And then amortization, which is just because there was a lot of capital expenditures in 2024 that are now being amortized in 2025. That amount of $8,000, so that's the majority of the increase there. Your sewer expenses and your fire department expenses are pretty consistent year to year. So that, there's an operating deficit in 2025 is 68,000, up slightly from 24, which is 46,000. The last two items on your statement of operations is the funding that helps cover those capital asset additions that I talked about a few minutes ago. So that you have the infrastructure funding, sometimes referred to as gas tax funding, so that was 138,000. That includes the gas tax funding and what we call the MCEG grant, which is the 10% you give back to the province for the HST portion. And then there was another funding around the rural growth initiative funding of 92,000 to help cover those costs as well. So then that brings the surplus for the year to be 162,000, down from 360,000 the year before. But again, in 24, there's a lot of capital asset additions. So then you'll see just above there, there's capital asset funding of 407,000. So.
Can I ask a question? Maybe neither here nor there, but my education. This unaudited budget line, what does this represent? Because I notice it's very different from the audited. Is
So
that better?
the unaudited budget line, so that's the budget that would have been approved by council for this year. And it's grouped together in categories that are consistent, that's in the actual.
Right. So our budgeting is quite off from what we end up with. In actuality, is that,
And yeah, and I wonder, and I didn't look into it, whether amortization expense might not be a budgeted amount.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so amortization is $110,000. So if you add that
Yeah.
110 onto the 364, you're looking at 470,000, which is fairly consistent to what your actual expenses are. Just the breakdown might be a little off.
And we do not consider the capital build, community building fund in our operating
Yes.
budget either.
Yeah.
So that's a
Just
big
the,
difference.
Yeah, we just try to put that down at the bottom.
Yeah. Helpful, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Does anyone else have any other questions on that?
The gas tax funding, have we got a new name for that, or is it a new, John, Councilor Robertson, we've talked about this 15 times, it's the community building fund.
Okay, well then let's just ask my gas tax fund.
Then the next couple of statements are just what we call reconciliation statement purposes, where you look at the changes in the net debt, which is actually most of it is net financial assets. It's just an indicator for public sector accounting standards, just to show that your financial assets are increasing at 247,000. And the next page after that is your statement of cash flows. And so that's again a reconciling statement to your cash from the beginning of the year to your cash at the end of the year. Anything without a bracket is cash in, anything with a bracket is cash out. Then the rest are the notes of the financial statements. Note number 1, the major municipality hasn't changed. Note number 2, significant accounting policies, just indicates that these are the consolidated statements that have those 3 entities, the municipality, the fire department, sewer utility. No change in accounting policies, and there's no change in accounting standards for the arrivers, so there's no need to change the accounting policies. That'll take you for a few pages. Yeah. You feel free to read it anytime you want. I'm told it's a good bedtime reading.
What page do we?
Page 11 now, yeah. So this is where we go to deferred revenue. So the indicator for the deferred revenue is, the new word of the agreement is with Canada Building Fund, Canada Community Building Fund.
Yeah.
So they had the revenue, the deferred revenue at the beginning of the year, $158,000. You can see there was no allocation received during the year. There's a little bit of interest income earned in the bank account where the money's kept. And then there was eligible expenditures of $128,000, which left it with $29,733 left to be spent for the next fiscal year. Note number 4 breaks out those 3 long-term debt amounts. I believe the first $134,000 was for the office mortgage, the $124,000 was for capital expenditures, and the $31,000 at the bottom was for a fire truck that was purchased. Indicated before, those are just being paid out as expected. And the next page, page 13, note number 5. Sorry, I take the order, might be a little different than what you guys said.
So 13, okay.
Yeah. So then this breaks out the government transfers for capital. So you can see it's the 3 amounts. The capital building fund, a community fund for $126,000. The capital expenditures grant for $11,000. Again, that's just the 10% HST portion. And the rural growth initiative, $92,000. Note number 6, standard note that's been there in the past, just indicating that you're subject to rate regulation from that. And then note number 7 indicates the segment disclosure, so we're required to break down the municipality segments, which is general government services, municipality center, recreation, sewer utility, and fire department. Because on the next couple of pages, it basically has your income statement, but it provides a different view. So you can see all the revenues and expenses broken out by the specific categories. And then there's a comparative schedule right behind it for 2024. And when you're looking under the expenses, you can actually see, when I talk about amortization, you can see amortization is broken out its own line, and the total for the year is $110,000. So it's just a different way of looking at the income statement than we looked at previously. I do like to find sometimes you can also, so when you're looking under the municipality center recreation, there's a loss of year $36,000 compared to $32,000 the previous year, just because usually recreation centers aren't a moneymaker for municipalities, so just want to point out that there is a loss there, but it's usually the general government funding is expected to be able to cover that loss. And then the last page breaks down your capital assets into a few specific categories.
Can I ask a question on the previous page? Is it normal for the sewer to also be in that? At the end of it?
What's last year's year before? Now, the reason the sewer's in debt is amortization.
Right.
So it's shown, if you take that out of the equation, they do make money. The problem is now, and a lot of your capital assets are now funded by government. The problem you'll run into is if you lose that funding from government, then it's gonna be hard to replace or repair those assets. So we kind of looked at amortization as a way, even though it's not cash expense, it's kind of a way you can anticipate what might be needed in the future, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So looking at it now, it makes cash, it's not losing money. But if you lose funding from the government to be able to maintain those assets or to replace assets, then you will run into an issue.
Is there a threat of that?
Right now, no. If federal government ever changes, you never know, but currently it's still the same government that's been in place for the last number of years. But there's always a threat if government changes, then funding availability will change.
For better or for worse?
So yeah, the last page is the capital assets. The top table is your 2025 numbers, and compared to 2024 numbers, adjusted. So you can see the breakdown of assets between land, buildings, streetlights, fire, and sewer. And the second column in, you'll see the additions for the year for $255,000. The majority of that is sitting in buildings, $198,000 for the work that was done in the community center throughout the year. Again, the funding was their rural growth initiative fund, covered part of it, and then the community capacity building fund for the other. So financial statements for the year ended.
Thank you.
Oh,
Please note the asbestos liability. Those two words scare me.
Well, we don't know if this asbestos liability. So public sector accounting standards put in a standard a couple of years ago that all people that fall under those standards should have their buildings or other areas evaluated if there's any future expenditures that would have to be incurred to either get rid of like asbestos, lead, or anything that would be toxic. Now, from engineers, I'm told any building before 1980 probably has asbestos. So considering the age of some of the buildings here, there is a chance that there is asbestos likely to be cleaned up. But that would require an engineer or somebody to come look and assess it and to come up with an approximate cost.
Is this something we have to follow up proactively or wait for it to happen?
Well, it depends on the qualification of your audit report. If you're okay with the qualification of the audit report, it's not needed. Whether the province comes back at some point in time and says they don't like the qualification, then they might push you to get something like that done.
Okay, you say audit report, is that what I would know as a management letter?
No, the audit report is in the financial statements right here. So it's just 2 pages.
So what's going to be in the management letter?
So the management letter actually do have the point there about getting an evaluation done for an asset retirement obligation. I'll give it. There's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no capital asset listing that's being maintained, right?
No, that's something that we have to do as part of your asset management plan.
As part of the municipal act that gets required of that. So that's in the management report as well.
Is this something we know yet?
This is part of the package that I leave here. And just a couple minor items, bank reconciliation, there's a few stale data checks that just need to be cleaned out. So next time, usually someone from the office comes down and helps in the adjusting entries, you can get her to show you how to get rid of those failed data checks. They're not material at all, they're small amounts, they're just old, so you might as well clean them off and make reconciliation. And then there was a small difference with the HST return too, so there likely will be an amendment that needs to be done. But again, small, it's immaterial, just want to make it up so you can amend it at the time.
I have one question about that 10% grant we get back from the usability funds. You said it's basically before tax, so it's based upon?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the whole thought process is, so there's usually 15% that's charged on everything you guys purchase.
Yeah.
As a municipality, you automatically get the 5% back as a HST return. So this is the province trying to get you the other 10% back.
Okay.
What should we be afraid of?
Right up. Good question.
What's going to jump out of this, if anything?
Out of these financial statements, nothing's jumping out. Operations seem to be going as normal, straightforward. Again, as with any other municipality, the concern would be if the capital asset funding dries up. Because operating buildings takes a lot of money and a lot of revenue's not coming in to repurpose buildings. Yeah. The grab and go was great. That was a good way to try to make some money to use the building here and have some additional money.
It's all driven by the volunteer, primarily, one support from another, yeah. Is there any risk of the interest rates on our loans increasing?
I believe right now they're fixed.
They're fixed for another 2 years, I think.
Yeah, I think they're mostly all coming due for renewal in 28.
So previously, the council had locked those in when they were kind of.
Yeah.
Were they high already?
They're still,
Yeah.
they're 6.5 right now,
Okay.
so yeah.
Okay.
Tara, the 5-year asset management fund, we start with that on just our insurance on our assets.
That's, yeah, probably, that's, they're all listed there. I just remember how. Yeah. So that's on my to-do list. As the department, give you guys any guidance on how to pull one together. Like, if they give you a template to put together.
I've talked to Tracy Allen at Municipal Affairs a little bit about it. But then, of course, it was, it's like to do.
Yeah.
So with summer, not with being quieter, but she can be trying to get some policies that we're missing in the asset management.
We do that at work too, we say summer, fall jobs. Well, it's not as busy, summer, fall jobs.
So if there are no further questions, we need to have a motion that council hereby approve the 2024-2025 financial and audited reports as presented by Representative Arsenal West Cameron
And that,
Minutes. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Yes.
thanks, Tara.
Yes, thanks, dear.
So, are we doing better than last year?
Yes. So, I'll leave it up to you there, okay, and these are actually the AR reports too. Okay, I'm just doing.
And we need to sign and get a copy back to you.
And then really just AR report, sign a copy back to,
Okay,
the government.
okay, yeah, that's Curtis was looking at.
Okay. Arsenal Best. And Alice.
Thanks, Tara.
All right, thanks.
Okay, have a good evening. Nutley claims, letter to July 25th.
It's me.
That's you?
I messaged Dan just when we were applying for, because CXUI, it came out today, so you probably saw it all over the socials. It's CXUI's concert, which is the venue. And they want to partner with us, you know, maybe for a yearly concert, and they're thrilled. And anyway, so when I called the liquor inspector, because we want it to be all ages event, so, but adults are going to be braceleted, kind of like the cabbage.
Yeah.
You know, 19 plus will have a bracelet. They said because it's an all ages event, they needed council to write a letter saying they were okay with us going ahead with this concert.
And I have a letter here, it says council has been asked to write a letter on behalf of Nellis Landing located in Murray Harbour. Council is aware of the event planned for July 25th, 2025 to be hosted at Nellis Landing and are aware there will be liquor served at this event. Council supports this event and has no concerns.
Thank you. You already wrote it. Yes. Question?
Capacity. Are you cap, is there a cap on
We're gonna cap.
sales or what?
We're gonna cap it, but, we were shocked when we got our capacity because it's huge with the outdoor.
Yeah.
Because what we thought is we would fence the parking lot.
Yeah.
We have buses coming from town, but fence the parking lot, right? So that's part of the venue. So the fire marshal gave us a 1,200 person capacity.
Oh, dear.
Oh, shit.
And I said, absolutely not. We're capping it at 500. Because I said I can't just everybody else is down. You know, we're capping it there. We're gonna have to have, you know, probably 10 security, first aid. We have 2 RCMP cars who are gonna be here patrolling, probably parked right out there. We have to be very careful for liability with, and we have insurance and we have, yeah, so we're capping it. And we have about 200 tickets sold already today.
Wow.
So and they just announced it today, so I'm like, oh,
So who is it? I didn't hear.
his name is Ben Chase. He's originally from PEI. He's with Kenny Chesney right now in Vegas. He was with Fred Paisley last week. He went out and filmed the video on Cal's fishing boat, Saltwater Cowboy. Remember that one? So he lives in Nashville, and he's got, you know, Brett Kissel, you know that name? So he's got Brett Kissel's entire band with him. So they're, you know, son of Canada and like really, really good musicians. Well, CFCY is a country station, but he's not, like, he's kind of got his own vibe. Like you'll see they're coming out with a lot of videos of him performing, and he's the only Islander to ever play the main stage at the Cavendish Beach Music Festival. He's played it twice. Normally, for him to even show up at an event, he's $20,000 for him alone, not a band.
Yeah.
But we got him for $3,000 because he happens to be my nephew. So when Cal and I got the marina and he came down, before we even thought of having a music venue, he's in Nashville then, and he's very big in Calgary, opens for Stampede all the time. He left when he was younger. He fished with Cal when he was 16 to 18 probably. He lived with us for a few years in Charlton. When we bought the marina, he said, I am going to play here someday on a boat. And he goes, you mark my word. And I said, okay, whatever. And then we kind of, you know, then we had Dave and JP play, and, you know, and then we kind of went to the boat. And so this summer he said, I want to play for you this summer. And I said, Ben, I can't afford you. And he said, you pay my musicians and you put us up. And he said, I'll call CFCY because they are thrilled to jump on board with this. Anyway, so that's, what I have money to How much is it? 25. Tickets are 25. Yeah. So,
And where do you get tickets?
they're on Eventbrite through CFCY's.
Did you do a poster up?
I did. They're being printed tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. And like for the next 6 weeks, basically, Murray Harbour gets and us and like $20,000 worth of free advertising from CFCY because we get Talk Talk, we get Hoedown Live, we get 6 ads a day. We're on all their socials. We're part of the Hoedown Live with giveaways on Saturday. So it's kind of just, you know, they want to make it an intimate concert, not this big, like. So
500 is great.
well, it is when you think
My definition of intimate.
when you think CPM has 30,000, 500 is considered intimate. I'm not gonna lie, it's probably gonna be loud, but I don't know if it would be louder than normal musicians that have played on their boats. But yeah, we've got, you know, they're bringing in the cruiser, they'll have everything wrapped, they'll be giving away prizes, and They have their DJs being the announcers, and I think Harborview is gonna close a little early that day, just we didn't want to get in with their, because they have live music and, yeah.
So what's the time of the event?
7 to 10.
Okay.
7 to 10, yeah.
After party at my house.
Well, there is an after party, but everything's unplugged. It's, like, we're only, like, a family and our guests in the boats and whatever. But keep it down, but nothing's gonna be plugged in. It would just be acoustic, and I'm only letting 30 people stay, and those are some of CAFCY's
Denver's
VIP.
parking lot.
Pardon me?
Another 50 in Denver's parking lot, just listening.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, so that's our, thank you. Lenny Gallant messaged last night, he would love to play a show here this summer as well. So we're talking to him. Jimmy the janitor called, saying he wants to put on a show. Anyway, we don't wanna overwhelm ourselves or you guys or anybody, so we'll just.
There's always next year. Yeah, so the takeaway of this year is if you want it to get fast.
Yeah, I suspect it's gonna, we may even cap it at 400, I'm kind of getting, like I thought if I sold 20 tickets today, it would be good.
You would.
No, we can't get them for me, it's not my show, but it's, we're the venue. So, yeah, they're on Eventbrite. It's called the Best Boat Party. CFCY Best Boat Party. So we will be on a boat and, yeah. But I mean, I was also gonna mention, if the community wanted to get involved in any way, or somebody come and sell 50 tickets for the bridge or for the community, or somebody, CFCY said, try to get the community involved and have them, charge $5 per car to park and take that money, or do the 50-50, or happy, thrilled, if anybody wants to do that. We won't be doing that. We're gonna, be barbecuing and.
Which kind of brings me to my next question. Where are 500 people gonna park?
Yeah, well, there's buses coming.
Okay.
And I have a lot of. Well, I mean, Brad Richards, where did everybody park for Brad Richards?
They had fields.
Chapman's.
Well, Mark McNeil has offered his field. He has a really big parking spot down there. Susan Herring.
Yeah.
Has offered her
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
And,
She's got a big one.
yeah, and we talked to the Harbour Authority, about parking at the harbor as well. Yeah. So. That's
All right.
where we are at.
Sean Landon.
Thank you.
You're up, buddy.
Thank you.
Jen, what's the date?
Friday, July 25th. And it is the Murray River Fisheries Festival that weekend. But we decided to go with the Friday because they have a concert on Saturday and we didn't want to compete. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Gary and I met briefly today, and we're going to do a tour of the dog park in the next couple of days to determine wants and needs of the area. I only have a couple of requests right now, and the first one is that we don't put that big barrel of water back up there. With the avian flu going on, we shouldn't have any water up there at all. Anybody bringing their dog should bring water and should take their bowls when they leave. Other than that, I don't really have a whole lot. We know how important that park is, and hearing about what's going on at Nellie's Landing, all the people that come here to stay for the summer, or that park gets regularly used. I hope the people on council appreciate the value of that park.
People come from Lower Mont.
Oh, yeah.
Montague, Lower Mont.
Cardigan even.
Yeah.
Montague on a regular basis. I talked to other people from far and wide. This is the only park east of Charlottetown, except for the new one that's in Surrey that's only been there for 2 or 3 years. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But the people in Charlottetown rave about our park. They think it's better than anything they've got.
Better than Cornwall.
So, yeah. So that in the short term, that's really all. I'll go through it more in detail with Gary.
Okay.
The only other thing I would ask is that, we put something out on the website or wherever, don't get me into that. But, something about encouraging people that use the park on a regular basis to put in their wants and needs list so that we can kick it around and make sure we don't miss anything. That's good for me.
Sounds good. Well, maybe Friday, Sean.
Yeah.
I'll get back to you.
Yeah, excellent.
As I mentioned though, that we have a Parks and Recreation Committee now, with Kelly Matheson as the lead.
Mhm.
I'll make sure she's aware. I don't expect she'll be able to make it, but you and I can take a tour around.
Sure.
Report back to her. The thing is, the other hackathon is for the Community Building Fund, which is hopefully gonna get approved. We won't know until July 15th, maybe. And that would be anything, any ideas that you come up with, that we could incorporate that into
Yeah.
the bigger picture.
The only other thing that I forgot to mention, probably the most important thing, we cannot close the whole park. If we're going to renovate any of it, it's gotta be one side or the other.
Yeah.
We have to keep one side available all the
Yeah, the
time.
big dog park is
It needs the west.
It's the
It's the little one that needs the
drainage,
work.
Yeah, it's another one that's a swamp.
no trouble there.
Okay, excellent.
All right, business arising from previous meetings. Canadian postcard mural project.
So I reached out to them for an update and they did not receive their funding, so they are not able to proceed.
So it's dead?
It's dead.
Okay.
Oh, dead. Okay, so May 14, 2010.
Pickleball had requested the rate increase in rating, but I never got a name of the delegate who wanted.
Okay, well, the best thing to do is just mail it to one of them, pick one and go. And if they don't put on it, if they aren't gonna pay the $3, Carol White or whoever, don't matter who it is, they're paying the $3 and that's that.
Okay, so.
We're not getting into,
I would like some help drafting that.
well, I can tell it, Bruce.
And hopefully this will not be an item on our agenda again.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, well, so dogs at large. Jerry.
So Derek and I have been working on an animal control bylaw. Take it away, Derek. It was part of your package.
Yes. So Ed and I met several times and we reviewed bylaws from other municipalities. We looked at Surrey, Cornwall. A lot of them are very similar here in the United. They're not very different. A couple of things that we thought that we could incorporate into this bylaw is to get away from licensing. Because we knew that that was going to be difficult and could be expensive. And so what we thought we would do is just make sure that everybody who has a dog has a tag on their collar that says the name of the dog and a phone number. So that if a dog is missing and someone picks it up or sees it, they've got somebody that they can phone and say, your dog is loose, is here, I bought your dog or something, please come and pick it up. So we thought that would be a much simpler system. So the bylaw actually requires people within the village, if they have a dog, that they must have a collar and a tag on it. The other thing that we talked about was whether or not a dog is under control if it's off leash. Many of us have, or a lot of us have dogs and they'll walk right beside you, they heel properly. But it's really difficult to start dividing up people who have a dog under control verbally and on leash. So we said that any dog that is off your property, should be with a leash. So you should have it under control physically, not just with, because you can't, dogs can go off and, so every dog has a different temperament. So we thought that would be an important thing to do. And then we got into things like, well, Gary brought the point up that, and I agree 100% that we need a bylaw to educate people to make sure that they understand it would be wrong to have a dog at large. And so the whole idea of enforcement of a bylaw could take up some more time. So we thought that really we shouldn't probably be worried about that so much as to make sure that the bylaw allows for an authorized person, someone authorized by council, to administer the bylaw or to enforce the bylaw. And it could be the Humane Society, or it could be another group of private individual, if we so desire to do that. I'm not sure to what extent it's going to be necessary. We left some openings for new technology that if we need to prove that dog is at large, we can take a picture of it and you know a time and a date, and we could certainly look at finding someone who had a, prove that they were off property and at large. So that's something that we thought might be a way of enforcing it. But we didn't spend a lot of time on that because it needs more thought on the enforcement of it. It's a bit like, you put up, you can have a speed limit sign and you've got it in your bylaw or your policy. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be enforced day and night. But what this does is it gives somebody like Claire the ability to have within the village when there's a real problem dog and there's a bylaw that she can act upon, as opposed to using the dog act. Pardon?
Who's Claire?
Claire is the animal control officer for the Humane Society.
From Charlottetown.
Yes. Yeah. Like when Archie had his problem, she was out within hours. She actually came out after I notified her. She was here within 2 hours, and she visited Charlie twice and talked to him about it. So, but she said, if we had a bylaw that she could do something about it, she would be able to do some enforcement, just because it's such a problem in that particular case. This isn't going to, I suspect we're not going to be hiring a dog catcher to do this. There's not many dogs that are a problem dog anyways, but it does give us some control, and it does start to educate people and let them know that we do have a bylaw that requires them to manage their animal. The other thing that we decided is that, of course, when you get into animal control, you can have some, people have all sorts of animals that they could be at large. But just a quick story. When I was in Director of Engineering in Yellowknife, we had a problem with somebody decided they were going to have a pet tiger. And they actually were walking down the street with a pet tiger on a leash. And then it required an exotic pet bylaw, that sort of thing. And we don't know what animals we're going to have in the future that may be a problem. So what we decided to do in a couple of cases here is create schedules to the bylaw, which allows you to update the schedule as opposed to the whole bylaw. And in this case, we had a schedule, and you can see that one of the animals that we controlled is dog. We just listed one animal because I don't know what will happen in the future, but we didn't want to get into red herrings about what kind of animals are we going to try to control, cats at large, or we get whatever. But it was important that we leave it open so that council can make a decision in the future of what kinds of animals that are at large are a problem. So we're not trying to solve all the problems right now, but we listed the one animal that we're trying to control right now, which is dogs at large. Fines, we had some fines in there as well, and again, that's a schedule that can be updated at any time. That would have to go with whatever we decide to do for enforcement. And that's not known right now. But I think this is a great start in that we've got a decent bylaw. It's very practical, and it's not going to cost us a lot of administration time or money. But I think that once we have a bylaw, once if council approves this, that we let the community know that we do have one now, and here are the salient points that you have to keep in mind. And they're not onerous. I mean, making sure your dog has got a name and a phone number on is probably the number one thing that some of the people may have to do. I would say most people already have that on their dog's collar. But
Very good. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, I have a current rabies tag, and she's microchipped.
Well, so is my dog too.
So she doesn't wear her name on her sleeve.
Yeah. Well, now the bylaw would require that if your dog is off property, it would have to have a tag of the people. So if they've got loose, people would know who it belongs to. because not everybody knows who the dog, and they can't read a microchip, except at a vet or someone like that. Did I miss anything? Yeah.
So are we in a position then realistically, sorry, Bernie?
Questions, yeah. So, in theory, the Humane Society could help enforce. So are they able to, like in your case, if we had a bylaw that said there was a fine for that incident, could they then enforce that fine? Like, I'm trying to clarify, what can the enforcement officer do? They
Yes.
can just carry out what we have in our bylaws.
Yes.
Okay.
But they can also, they also manage the dog act as well, which is the
Yeah.
provincial one for
Yeah.
very dangerous dog, but they could do that.
Okay.
You can also, because, the definitions, an officer or someone that can, act on this bylaw is someone that's authorized by council, could be anyone. So it could be the PI Humane Society, there are private contractors that do this same thing as well. They don't apprehend animals, but they can identify them and give us information as to who they belong to, and then we can take some action. Again, we didn't think that we were going to have, this isn't gonna come up very often in a year, but it is an option to.
So the Humane Society doesn't have capacity right now to take us on as, you know, we pay them X number of dollars a month, then they fly through the village, maybe once a month. They don't have the capacity for that. However, when there's a situation like what happened to Archie, they would come out and then they would look at our bylaw and say, okay, well, you have this in place and this is what we're going to do. There was one
Do
lady.
we pay for that?
Well, they don't charge for
Don't
that.
believe so,
That's-
not when
That's
it's.
under the dog act,
That's the dog
that's
act.
a-
Yeah,
that's
so,
Yeah.
we would pay if they were to come out, just.
If we were hiring them,
On a monthly basis. There is one lady that does bylaw enforcement for a number of communities, but she is stretched very thin, so if you know anybody who wants to be a bylaw officer.
I'm not volunteering, I did have a question. It's the first I've heard of the provincial dog act for dangerous dogs, and I'm wondering what protections are already in place that we could rely on instead of developing our own bylaw.
Well, one of the problems with this, John, is that the only way that you can deal with the dog act is you have to go through the Crown. You have to go to the prosecutor, you have to go, and you go through that terrible process, that you know what that would be like, and it can take months and years to get a settlement, to settle it. Whereas if you've got a bylaw, and you say, did have a problem like I had, you could go to small claims court, and you can deal with it that way. Plus, it's you might be able to deal with it within the bylaw. So it makes a huge difference to the person that's the victim, because they don't have to work through the court system. It can be.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, but as an incorporated area, we have the responsibility to have the bylaw. The dog act is more unincorporated areas?
It was for licensing only.
Okay,
So for the dog act applies to the whole province, the licensing applies to the incorporated area. That's the licensing the province does to access they expect most municipalities to have some sort of bylaw to deal with their own situation. So, but I think that I still think that licensing, it probably isn't necessary. That's an administrative nightmare maybe for us to be sending out invoices every month.
And we
Everybody has
did
a dog in
the
the
dog
dog act.
Could be revenue generation.
Well, I don't think it is anywhere else.
Yeah, we're gonna see.
Like at the
That's
province,
the sad part.
at the province is $10 if it's not neutered, and it's $5 if it's neutered. Like, it's not a money maker for anyone.
that doesn't even cover the cost of the tag.
Yeah, it helps, I guess it helps the province or the Humane Society, that money goes to them, but it's not very much. I think having a bylaw is a great start. The whole idea of enforcement, I think, is something that we have to develop and think about in the time ahead. But this doesn't stop us from, having a bylaw and enforcement. We'll just have to work on that. Oh, it is.
I have to say that We can't we should not, I recommend, have the one and then worry about the other. I'm not licensed to practice law in this province, but I believe if we pass a bylaw, then we are obligated to enforce it, and if we do not enforce it, we are liable. That's not a legal opinion, I'm not licensed to practice here, but I think we should get a legal opinion before we do that.
Well, and it does say that the council can appoint anyone to, as an officer to enforce this bylaw. It doesn't have to be the
I think it needs to be a package, I don't think we can do the one and say the other will come. It's just, if we're going to have a bylaw, we have to have an enforcement process in place for it.
Well, that's fine, except you'll never have a bylaw, I suspect.
Sorry?
You probably won't have a bylaw in the future. It takes a very long time to sort that one out.
Get it passed.
Get what passed?
Takes years for it to get bylaw passed.
Isn't that what we're talking about doing
Yeah.
tonight?
Yeah, no, it doesn't take years to get the bylaw passed, I mean, 2 readings and it's done, but what John is saying, to have the bylaw in place with no enforcement.
But we have
Puts us
enforcement.
at risk.
We have
You do have
enforcement.
enforcement.
We have
though,
enforcement.
don't
It should
you,
be-
with the,
Except
if you call,
Yeah.
Humane Society? or
Serious
something?
cases, serious incidents, like what happened
Oh,
to Arch.
okay, okay,
Dog running loose, no,
okay.
they're not coming.
Dog without a tag? No.
No.
Like nobody's checking on us.
Yeah.
But you can hire
So
somebody.
can we check, can we get a legal take on this then, or what?
I don't think that's necessary. We've got many bylaws.
Yeah, we've
We're
got.
gonna check all our bylaws to see. I think that's redundant. I think it's understood that we have to enforce them. That's what bylaws are. I don't need a lawyer to pay them $400 an hour to come and tell us that.
Looking at the liability that council will face, I mean, it's not a matter of putting grass cuttings on the road that we're talking about.
Well, if it came to a vote, I'd say no.
No to the bylaw or no to getting a legal opinion?
No to legal opinion.
Okay.
If it comes
Is it a
to
vote?
whenever.
If
Well, I guess first of all, I want to know, are we going to be in a position to read that tonight or no?
No.
Run it in first
It's not
reading.
gonna be a second. It's not a first reading tonight.
No,
It can be a first
Is it
reading
both?
tonight if council agrees to it, without the enforcement part.
Because I did go through it
So they
and I had a couple of red marks there, so maybe it wouldn't be proper to read it tonight, Derek.
Yeah, that's not a problem. The important thing is to get it done here
Yeah,
at some point here. This year, I was hoping that we get this thing done at least this calendar year would be.
Yeah.
well, and we had talked about that we would be willing to come back for a special meeting,
Yeah,
like, in order to move this along. We had said that, and
Yeah.
I'm assuming
Still
everybody's
support
still
that.
agreeable, yeah.
If
But I
could-
guess we need two, is that it?
2
We
readings,
need to
yeah.
read.
Two meetings, yeah.
If I could get that document in Word, I could,
Or you can just do your changes.
well, I don't think you read all those. Just, if you give it to me in Word, I can just track changes.
Is there anything material here?
Not really, just, just like well, for instance, with the fines, is it per dog or per incident, it just says $100. Or you got $2 from $200 or is it $100? There's
no,
little,
it's, yeah.
the semantics are right.
And there's a thing at the top too, there's multiple incidents.
Yeah.
You start paying more for it.
They're cumulative, so if the
Just
first
a little-
offense 100, second offense 200.
And again, that's why it's important to have it as a schedule and not as part of the bylaw.
Yeah.
If it's part of the bylaw, so it can be changed.
Just a general, I had a read of it as well, and just as a general overall input to the bylaw, I got a little lost in the use of the term dog versus animal. So I would be reading and I'd be like, okay, are we talking about any animal? Are we talking about a dog?
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, I think there was, maybe that is an inconsistency because the schedule will tell you it's a dog.
Yeah.
And so what we have to do is keep referring back to the animals that are on the schedule. So that, and when you go to the schedule.
That's right
it's
there in
dog.
your first definition.
Yeah.
Animal includes but not limited to dogs, as per Schedule A, Schedule A
Yes.
only has a dog.
Yes.
So-
Well, that was the idea, that to make it flexible for the future.
But I mean, if you look at,
Consistent.
if you look at 4.3, like this is just one of the examples where I was kind of like, oh, it says at large means off the premises of the owner and where the animal is not on a leash and under the immediate care and control of a competent and responsible person. So that's any animal.
No, no. So
It says
definition of
animal.
animal.
Yeah, we did the animal, we said it was.
Animal means, right there. First one.
Yes, but then that means that it says includes but not limited to dogs. So that means
But it
that if I
reference-
had a problem with somebody's cat on my property,
You're not
it's
reading it.
loose.
You're not reading it. Schedule A says dog, period.
Yeah, so it's referring to Schedule A. All your domesticated animals as listed in Schedule A, and the only thing on
Okay,
Schedule
got
A
it.
is dog.
Got it.
We'll be adding
Sorry.
cats.
That was to give some flexibility in house in the future for these, any other animals that you really feel need control.
Because, yeah, we could have gone down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's the thing, when we started listing animals, we said, whoa.
Cats, parrots, snakes, tigers.
Well, perhaps, Gary, if you've got some comments, more comments
Okay.
like that, we can go through the meeting.
Yeah.
And just by way of my feedback, I thought, like, I supported generally, I thought it was really, I like the approach and what was included and not included. And definitely support the idea of getting this in place and then starting with education. I think that
That's-
makes a lot of sense to me. The enforcement piece, like, yeah, that's kind of.
I mean,
Or not
does it come down to 2 dogs that are the problem?
Oh, no, there's more than 2.
Yeah.
There's more than 2, and it's growing.
I think
Like,
that's
I'm saying
valid.
dogs that I've never seen before running loose.
Okay.
So we're done with that? Everyone's done. Okay, so Murray Harbour fans,
The ordinance should arrive by mid-July.
mid-July. It's recreation.
So, last meeting, I was asked to approach Gordon about doing the garbage and kind of maintenance-y things once Shannon is done for the season. And he would be interested in doing that, but I'd like council input on exactly what it is you want him to do.
And what's Shannon doing? We would want him to do
So-
differently.
It's garbage, around the community center and also at Railhead Park. She's doing maintenance on the dog park. She just went and did that wire at the dog park today.
Yeah.
Maintenance on the step outside, the very bottom step. Maintenance around here, I need a cork board hung up. I can do it, but then I'm not doing this stuff.
My concern is,
Yeah.
how many, are we adding hours to, this is a whole separate job function, and
Yes.
adding hours and costs
Yes.
and resources and where's the money coming from?
That's why I would like him to go.
Obviously, we didn't budget an extra for Gordon this year, but, I don't know, it wouldn't be a lot of, a couple hours a week perhaps, after Shannon's done, which is like when? August?
September, mid-September.
Yeah.
And so it would be like picking up garbage around the ball
Yeah.
hockey,
Yeah.
picking up glass.
Yeah.
And
But it's additional work, it's not something
It
we
is
just add
definitely-
into his daily.
no,
routine.
it is definitely a different, it would
To
be
change the
more,
scope and pay.
yeah, maintenance and I don't know what you would call the other.
Well, and I think when we initially had the conversation, it was, we were talking about a particularly short time period, right? Like, in the spring, it was from when the ice, then snow melts till when Shannon starts, and then probably in the fall to when the snow flies again, because the need is really not there over the winter months. It's just some additional stuff on the 2.
For the outside, but there could be other stuff maintenance wise within the community center. Right now, the
for the cenotaph is caught.
Okay, so you wanna have,
Yeah,
do that
so-
stuff too.
You know, go fix that flag. If there's a problem with the Canadian flag, or in the spring putting up the other flags.
Yeah, I know you need the help, because I mean, we've talked about that before, the amount of jobs that you're doing that are absolutely not within your purview.
Right.
You're doing stuff that's taking away from the work that you have to do on a regular basis. I don't think that's up for.
Yeah, so I don't think it would be a lot, but it would be nice to have someone to go and say,
Go fix this.
hey Gordon, can you go grab that flag for me? Here's a new one. Yeah, could you put that up?
Unless it's something the Parks Committee volunteers could handle.
I think the thing that is that when you need things done, like flags are only an example.
Yeah.
Right, like, you know, I need this corkboard put up. There's nobody here to do it.
Yeah.
It's those kinds of general maintenance things that you need to have a go-to person for. And I totally agree.
You see this need happening not until September?
Like pretty much, we'll use Shannon, even though her title is groundskeeper, she's like groundskeeper and maintenance.
Yeah.
So if it's something, you know, the flags, I don't think I would ask Shannon to do. I would probably end up doing
Well,
that myself.
what in your opinion, then would it be like a couple hours a week?
I think it might be one of those things that's nothing, and then it's like 5 hours.
It's over a month.
Yeah.
Would it be 10 hours a month?
No.
No.
I can't see it.
I think
Another
once,
5.
once he's on staff, it'll be 10 hours, so what he needs to do.
But is it unreasonable to set it up in that way where it's, what's the word, like, pay as you go? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't.
like that it's not just an additional
Yeah, I don't-
requirement.
I
across the
don't
board, but it's-
see it running as, okay, here's an additional 5 hours automatically.
No, so
So I
it's
think it would be a case of, okay, what did you do for maintenance and
Okay,
other
so-
work today?
So right
this
now,
week?
what's his schedule right now?
5 hours a week.
2 days a week or? what?
He's usually doing Thursdays and Sundays. Sundays is the definite day, and then Wednesday, Thursday,
2.5 each time?
and he's spending more than that.
Well, my thought is if you just tacked on an hour or time when he's here. So you say, Gordon, today I got this couple extra things for you. I have to do janitorial duties. Today I got nothing for you.
Yeah,
Sunday, do this for me after you're done your janitorial duties. Instead of having another, come in Monday for an hour or a short-term notice, something, have him set up that he has to stay, if there's work for him, another hour or something at the end of, or before he starts his janitorial duties.
Is part of the problem now the daily regular monitoring, such as broken glass at the playground? That can't wait till Sunday if it's broken glass on Tuesday, and who's finding it? Hopefully not the ending
Well, you're talking about one incident that happened, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That was rare.
Well, it's
Yeah, that's really that rare, buddy.
I go over there all the time, I don't see any broken glass.
A few years ago, there was glass there everywhere.
I think initially that would
All
be,
hockey folks have said that they clean up on a regular basis, they clean up the glass.
So they should be.
I don't know why it continues, but
I
it's
think,
been going on for a while.
I think initially it would be helpful to do it like, okay, Gordon, I've got these tasks for you to do.
Mhm.
This can wait till Sunday, or I need you to come in and do this, and we keep track of it separately so that we know how much it is
Yeah.
in reality for budgeting for next year.
If you've got a list for him, to-do list, you know,
Yeah.
and say wherever you can check off, you know, but we don't want you spending 4 hours in here.
Yeah.
You know,
You could put the list on your corkboard.
Once he puts it up.
that's the first thing. So he said he was interested.
Mhm.
Last time, I remember a year or so back, when we budgeted, he was not interested in the next.
Yeah. Yeah, the situation has changed, so. Now, of course, Shannon has started, so this is probably a moot point until mid-September.
Why don't we leave it till another next meeting? It's a moot point.
Do we have Shannon all of September?
Half of September,
That's our next meeting, eh?
yep, September 10th.
Unless we have a special one for a dog bylaw reading. But I don't know, that's fine, I think we just.
Does that work for you, Ann? Status quo until September?
And like John said, we have a park and recreation committee and we have delegated areas for us, the three of us, to keep eyes on.
Yeah,
And if certainly if we see glass, we'll pick it up or,
Yeah.
or
And
garbage.
see, that Parks and Recreation Committee would have been handy to do the nets on the basketball and the nets for the soccer.
Yeah.
But I got Shannon to do it.
You should have told Kelly.
I know.
Don't forget about her.
Okay, so we'll leave this until
Have to get a
September.
little annual, like, to-do list for that committee,
Yeah.
because it's seasonal, right?
Correspondence, email from her, yes,
I suggest we send
who's the guilty
the person, we send him a letter of thanks for cutting his grass. Looking at the number of people in the village who don't cut their grass and have unsightly properties, and should be commended for keeping his property up. That's my opinion.
I am not worried about grass clipping on the road, that's my.
Me either,
No.
it's the least of my worries.
Was the letter dated April 1st?
I don't have a clue.
Sadly, no. So,
Does it require a response?
She should get a response, and anybody that
Yeah.
sends us a letter should get a response.
I can send her an email saying it was brought to council's attention at this.
At this time, we're not aware of any other concerns
Yeah.
on this issue,
No action,
but
no action
but
plan.
thanks for
Thanks,
letting
Emma.
us know.
Alrighty.
You're up.
So, of course, every time I get my CEO report done, and sent it to everybody, stuff will come in. So, I attended that AMA PEI semi-annual meeting, and yeah, there's a lot of policies. I was talking to Derek about it today. I have not found a policy binder, and there are some policies we're mandated to have. So that'll be something else that I'm working on. They did a little spreadsheet that shows what you have to have. And so we'll be working on that. We just got notification today that we were granted $1,386 through the grant in lieu of property taxes. So they're taking that off our property tax bill for this building. And we received notification that we had $10,000 additional funding to the community fridge. 10 products.
Nice.
Very timely. Margaret's on holidays and she's back June 23rd. And then I would like to go on holidays June 23rd and get back July.
Impossible.
That's all?
Thank you, Joanne.
Yeah.
My boys are coming to visit.
July 23rd to when?
Back July 3rd.
Inclusive. eh?
Yeah.
Back on the 3rd.
Yeah. And other than that, we're doing the dog and.
What's that, 2 weeks?
No,
And days.
we,
Is that your full entitlement or is what? Yeah.
oh, no, I have more banked hours than that. Other than that,
Okay, so reports of committees.
other financials.
Oh, yes, okay. Financial update.
Heard enough numbers tonight.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
You heard Jared, we're doing well.
Hmm.
So I just need somebody to move and second the report and financial report. Be received as information.
I so move.
I'll second.
All in favor? You're welcome. Now we go on to the reports and committees.
Okay, well, the first couple are mine. Honestly, the last 5 weeks I've been so entrenched with the committee for the memorial.
And well done.
Wonderful job.
Yeah.
Great job. Took a lot of time. Thanks to Marlene and Jackie and Carol, and a lot of other people, dozens. It's a success.
Gary carried a very heavy load for that.
So I didn't do anything else. Anyway,
Sleep is overrated.
yeah, still waiting to hear about the painters. Now it's 10 degrees at night, or more. There's only 4 there on Monday. There. That's what they've been telling me. We have to wait for good temperatures to paint outside. And that's still no work to do, of course, and the eavesdropping. Capital projects, we have 1 approved for this year, and I'm waiting to hear about the others before I get some advice from an engineering firm to help us with the design and tendering process and all that good stuff.
For which project is that?
That's the upgrade to the recreation area.
Okay.
The drainage and parking lot and hopefully a bunch of other stuff for the dog park.
That's the one that is approved?
No.
No. What's
No.
approved before?
Cenotaph,
Right, sorry, okay.
walkway up to main
Yes,
entrance.
right, that was approved previously.
That's
Gotcha.
approved.
Yeah.
At 160 grand. But we're still waiting to find out about the dog park.
I just want to buy shares in the cement.
Yeah, no, pretty expensive. So apparently they will meet on July 15th, Dan, is that right? Yeah. And they'll decide the fate of those 3 applications we have in front of them, which is one is the flooring, which we'll talk about later. One is the upgrade over here to the dog park area, and one is the solar panel array. And we just don't know if we're gonna get any or all or part of them approved, but the first one upgrade over there in the solar panel looks positive. They never came back, didn't send their application back or anything. It looks,
No, they just needed a clarification on location, that was it.
we might be putting in a little change of scope, and I think Marlene probably mentioned this in a minute, which affects one of the CBS, that's the community garden. And I think we have a very strong case to add some money. There is money there, there's a balance today, so. Just change the scopes that's identified, that we like water supply to the park, the gardens, and Project Nectar. So I think we have a strong case for a scope change there, and because it's an arduous thing for the old folk to drag the water around, and we're getting bigger with the planters all the time, so that's coming.
The last 2 years, how have they survived?
Margaret now wears a brace on her head.
Who does?
Margaret,
Love the
yeah,
water
they
tanks.
have their garden user.
So the idea is to use the well that's there, and I'm
And
sorry,
Shannon has been supplementing as well.
yeah. Use the existing well that's there, and this is serviceable.
Yes,
Get a
there
nice,
was one plumber that's looked at it already.
The well over there?
Yeah, and he
It
said it's
is?
serviceable, yeah.
Okay.
That's good news.
Yeah.
But, he wants $5 grand to get a submersible pump and electricity rather. So probably with add some electric connect up to the utility pole and stuff, it's probably gonna push 10 grand, and I think, we can justify half of that, and Southeast Environmental will do the other half, I hope.
United Way.
United Way, yes,
Yeah.
ultimately United Way. Yeah. Which would be great, then we'd have a garden, those 2 spigots over there, I think is the idea, and
Water and electricity.
Yeah.
And in my mind, like that, that infrastructure could always be built on in the future. I like the idea of leveraging that 50 cents on the dollar from United Way to get it done.
yes, for sure.
Just a question, is that something that would have to be serviced for winter, like blown?
Yeah.
Oh, it's easy though,
Yeah.
just drain the water.
Yeah, just drain the water.
Nothing to it, yeah.
It does, yeah, so it does
It
get
is
turned off
winter
like a
nights.
cottage.
Which way, so that's the.
We'd have an off on in the shed over there for the power. So yeah, that's it. Now the Fisher's Memorial's over, I'm gonna dedicate a bit of time to the Heritage Park.
Are you gonna put in time for vacation?
Yeah. Yeah. I always wanted to go to the vacation. But the Heritage Park, I'm having a little dedication to for the bell. Paul's allowed me to have it on Canada Day. I had to bribe him with all the leftover hot dogs from the memorial. But he's gonna give me a little 20 minutes there at 2:30 on Canada Day. We're gonna have the last school teacher here that was in the school to do the official unveiling and give that movement a dawn there. And anybody that's going to be around, I hope who attended that school, including my wife, will be there. And it's going to be a quick little one because just after that's a cake auction. So we want to cut into that time. So it'll be nothing like the Fisher's Memorial. It'll be good to have it dedicated.
And Shannon just spread 50 bags of mulch just in that host event.
I just saw 50 bags of mulch in that garage. You must have blew the landscaping budget on black mulch.
No, Jack, I think the landscaping budget is $900 or $1,000.
Yeah.
And it was, for 108 bags, it was $430.
Well,
So, is this a good time to discuss the budgeting for the plantings?
No, not yet. So that's it for my reports. Parks and Recreation, I don't know if Kelly asked you to speak on that behalf or
No, just she sent the report in,
okay.
that they're asking for the maintenance person to collect the garbage. Oscar's possibly doing an introductory clinic for disc golf.
Yep.
She's asking about the flower box to be replaced by the dog park so it matches the one in the front of the community. I don't know if
It's the
she's
one
talking the
further
two
down.
that Merrick built
Brown.
there.
Is the old one, the derelict one?
I think that's the one she owns by the dog park, and she wants them to be done like the ones Merrick did at the front, but if we're doing renovations to the dog park,
Yeah,
it could
I
maybe
agree.
be done at
We
that
wouldn't want
time.
to touch much there until.
She also wants to have the sign and posts painted by the dog park.
Oh, what I want to ask, was that sign AE Keeping?
it was,
Did that
it
company
was,
donate?
it was,
build
wasn't it your keeping?
Your people,
Yeah. You had the ball up
yeah.
there.
So we want to maintain that designation and respect his
Yes.
donation and help.
Then that is gonna have
Is he
to be
still living?
replaced.
No,
Is the family still living? We could put it
That's
up
one
for,
I could tell you, John's family.
because we could put it up as another sponsorship opportunity, you know?
We can put sponsors all around the park, tell them they get the ring.
Yeah. But, anyway,
That sign is
Certainly one
held
donation
together
doesn't
by
get you perpetuity.
duct tape, wishes, and uniform parts. Shannon said as soon as you touch it, it is going to fall apart.
That's not it.
well, maybe it should come down and stay there.
See if anyone notices.
We don't want that plywood falling down like a guillotine, so maybe we should take it down. And then it'll be part of the rehab, upgrading the whole thing over there.
The planters too, if they're like,
Yeah, it's pretty rough shape.
And we have to spell the word visitors correct.
Where's that?
On the sign, it says home and visitors is spelled wrong.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah, that's how it's spelled.
It's backwards. It should be visitors.
It's got that, it's got some of the letters.
planters, yes, it's what I noticed.
That adds a little bit of its special attraction.
So then is that part of maintenance and infrastructure then to
Yeah.
have that sign?
Yeah, there's an overlap there from the Parks and Recreation and infrastructure. So I would suggest we, maybe it'd be Gordon. That should come down, it's that kind of fragile.
Sounds like it shouldn't take much to take.
No, back into it with your truck.
Hoof when you poof.
So am I asking Shannon to do that or Gordon to do that?
Well, if Shannon has the time, Gordon doesn't have that capacity yet. We haven't given him that official go-ahead yet. But ask Shannon if she's got,
I'll ask Shannon, but maybe it's something that can wait until she gets her summer student.
Yeah, it sounds like a two-person.
And Kelly also mentioned that they want to keep the ball hockey equipment shed. They don't want to have a lock on it. They want to leave it open with a sign that says, please return what you use. But mostly what's in there is the ball hockey
Yeah.
signs.
We looked at that and thought of the child or the children that come there to use something and they can't get in the shed. We spoke about the boys that are here that night, eh?
Yeah.
But it's kind of intimidating, I would think, for 8 or 9 or 10-year-olds to come over here and try to find Nan or try to find you or me or someone that left them in that shed and they just end up not using it. But now that I look in that shed and I've seen it there, it's almost all ball hockey equipment. A lot of it privately owned by the Kites.
You know that ball hockey stuff is us?
No,
sorry, all the sides and the edging,
Yeah.
that is all ours.
yes, but all, I'm talking the gear.
The nets
The
and-
gear's
yeah.
all the Kites, so I'm hesitant to have to backtrack on that thought right now and look for alternate storage.
But who has the key?
It's a
It's a
combination.
combination.
model.
So maybe we don't want to take the lock off that until the Cuddies are aware. Then we say, oh, we'll get their stuff out of this. Then that really would mess up the whole
Give the kids the
I need to
combination.
hold Chris and ask him
Okay,
how
so
he
Well, I think-
how he feels about
I
it.
think Michelle, that's running the ball hockey, was gonna talk with Chris. So
Okay.
Okay,
talk to Kelly, she's already got something going on there, so.
okay, Kelly to follow up.
And that's it for my stuff right now. We'll just wait for some good news on July 15th so we can get some good engineers involved here and get us going on a couple projects.
Marlene, you're up.
I don't really have anything to add. Gary's already kind of provided the update for anything that changed since I put my report in, about Project Nectar and the meeting. We decided about the well and yada, yada, yada. Now we're working on the financial side of things. On that, and the next newsletter will be in the fall. So unless anybody has any questions, I don't have any news.
Well done. Good news for you.
Sewage utility.
Okay, you didn't get a copy of that, did you, yeah?
Yeah, I sent
You got it, okay.
I have a copy if you want, Paul.
Now I have a copy.
Yeah, I sent everybody an email with this additional information.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just kind of go through. We met on the 10th and we're gonna go through with this assessing the sewage lagoon. It's gonna be 22,000 plus HST.
And that, sorry, that's something council has to vote on.
What's that?
That's something council has to vote on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we also we got a budget now, which we didn't
Yeah.
previously.
Which we'll have to discuss and vote on as well.
So what are your thoughts on that? This,
Well, my first thought is, we just got a budget, and it shows a deficit of 32,000,
well, that's,
and we've got a $22,000 looming quote.
I think
And
we
no
have
budget for that.
$65,000 in
They
the
have-
account.
I haven't put that in the budget so that it shows, but what that doesn't show is the money they currently have in the bank, which I think is $60,000. So they have the money for the report.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I read that. And
I was like,
So you've got the 22, and you say your budget shows a deficit of 32 and change. Right?
why is that?
Why?
yeah, because they didn't take into account the money that's in the bank account.
Well, that's not in this.
No.
Oh,
Oh.
that's wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay, so you've got the money to pay for this.
Yeah,
Sure. For the
Yeah.
study.
Okay,
You're sure, Ann?
Yeah.
60,000
Yeah, the concern is what that report will bring back.
yes.
well, it's not gonna be good news, I'll tell you that. It's gonna be,
What
you
is,
guys are looking at $80,000 to $150,000 job, and there's no money for that.
For what, the
To
clean?
clean them up, yeah.
Oh,
More than that?
More than that here.
5 minutes, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm thinking,
Could
oh,
be better.
really?
Isn't there funding from other levels?
well, I had a meeting on Monday with the AMA and Municipal Affairs, and they were directing me to another C-chip or something. I have to call Charlotte and ask her about that, to look for funding.
For that.
Also funding for, like during June, when they connected to the main, we're responsible to get from the main to the property line. Funding for that as well, so I have to, do a little work on my end with Charlotte to find out once we have this.
Is that
report.
extension reflected in this budget?
I don't think.
That extension sheet is
Is it
Oh.
required the inspection happens this year?
What?
Is it required the inspection happens this year?
No, I guess, no, we just,
They need it for IRAC, isn't that? I thought
Well,
it was-
we
Oh,
can't- we
can't
want
go
to-
For the rates
we
increases
want
and that,
to-
okay,
look at the rental fee.
okay.
You're gonna need that report,
Mhm.
so you can go to
Yes.
this. And say, we
Any
need
grants, yeah.
500,000.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And then that gives you gives you a reason for IRAC to say, you know, look, it hasn't been increased, last time it was decreased. We really need to, because we're facing these repairs.
The longer we sit on it, the more risk
The
we're at.
more
Yeah.
it's gonna be.
Also included in that, I think, Lawrence mentioned something about the UV lights, there's a control box or something that shows how well they're working, and that's $5,000 to replace, and that is included in the budget. So they've been limping along.
Dodging bullets,
Right.
right? Dodging bullets.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that the study, like, we can't sit on that any
No.
longer. Like, we just
Has to be
can't,
done.
it's gotta be done,
Yeah.
because
And then we
everything
can
else
sit
sits
on the
on
report.
hold.
And we can get funding.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, we get approval from council?
So I do have a motion that says that council hereby approve the proposal from CDCL for the Murray Harbour sewage treatment plant and lift station review.
Just a quick question, where did this $22,000 all of a sudden appear from? Should we got this in the budget?
We had around 60 or 65,000, isn't it?
Sewage utility,
Retained earnings type thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was never used.
Because when they had to replace the generator after Fiona, that was done through gas taps.
Yeah,
So that didn't wipe them out, which it would have, and been very lucky.
Yeah.
That day. So I would need,
So we need a motion and a second.
I'll move that motion.
I'll second it.
I'm gonna switch that to Pam.
All in favor?
Oh, yeah, you gotta come.
Yeah, to Paul second.
All in favor?
Nice to see the results of that report.
Yeah,
Oh, I have no for you to sign that one.
Any idea how quickly they would get that on?
Lawrence might know, but
What's that?
Lawrence might know how quick they'll do
Quick
that.
that report would be done.
We get a green light tomorrow morning.
Yeah, now that there's the approval, we can reach out to CBL or CCB, whoever, CBCL, and see how fast they can
Get that done.
get it done.
The sooner the better, because
Yeah,
we got to do something about our rates.
Yeah.
and then so we would also need a motion for you to approve the budget. So hereby approve the 2025-2026 Murray Harbour sewage utility budget is presented.
Well, should it be amended to show the cash, or is it not supposed to be there? That's in the account.
If it's an operating budget, it wouldn't have a cash bank account in there.
Okay.
I honestly, I haven't had a chance to look at it very
Yeah.
closely.
It was kind of, the meeting was only Tuesday, so
Hmm.
I
I agree with Councilman Kagan, we have a look at this, it just
Okay.
strikes me as a little jarring that all of a sudden we have $22,000 extra to spend when we're so tightly budgeted.
Well, they are,
No,
they have their
this
own
is the
bank
sewage,
account.
this is the sewage, separate, right?
They're not entirely separate, but their financials are separate from it.
And then could we get something in writing showing the cash balance, like included with that for?
I'd rather defer, wait.
Yeah, can we do, I don't think the budget is urgent, is it?
Well, it
Well-
was due to municipal affairs,
But we only got it today.
but, they waited this long, so,
Yeah. I had a hard time understanding it. That's just me. I
It's
couldn't,
not-
it was very convoluted to try to read it.
yeah, it's not how I would have done it, but,
So who approves this?
council approves it.
No, who produces?
Oh, Margaret,
Oh, okay.
so maybe Margaret and I, once we're both back from holidays, go over this a little,
Yeah,
I'd
We get
appreciate
into
it.
this
It's
bit
more
early, like
difficult to
hours,
read,
like-
yeah.
and then we'll just, bring the budget back to, previous business in
Yeah.
September.
September.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're up, Dan.
Okay, doke. So the theater curtains are not being embroidered.
You're what?
They're not.
what happened?
The what?
They're too heavy, the embroiderer cannot stitch on them. So what they're going to do is they're going to fix the embroidery onto twill, and they're being cut out, and then I will have to put them on the curtains myself. Because they are not able to do that. We'll get it done.
Is this what, because it's ballistic?
They're so fire.
Bulletproof.
Bulletproof curtains?
Yeah, they are thick and thick,
Yeah?
they're beautiful.
They're at
Do we
least,
have to put a different?
oh,
heater?
yes.
Oh, yeah,
Rob,
I would say.
Rob and Mike
40
Vaness.
tidy?
Pretty much.
6.
That's probably, Rob and Mike are actually gonna have a planning meeting. No exaggeration, each one of those curtains is somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 75 pounds per curtain. They
Easy.
are massive. They're beautiful, but they're massive.
Huh.
They're gonna look gorgeous. They're gonna be gorgeous. So whatever we need to do, anyways. So Rob and Mike, will look at what needs to be done to reinforce in order to be effective them. There was questions regarding the swing of the main hall doors. I did a little bit of research myself. Gary actually brought it to my attention. I understand why Reggie did it the way that he did, and unfortunately doesn't meet code. I think the reason why Reggie had those front doors swing in was about access for people in wheelchairs, that they could come straight through. However, for egress in the event of an emergency, people need to be able to push out and get out the door. I'm not 100% sure what the solution is. I mean, we could simply switch the hinges, but then we get back into the same problem that we had before, where folks who are in wheelchairs have a very difficult time accessing that room because they have to pull the door, they have to roll back and then get in. So,
Well, they'll get out easier.
yeah, but they can't get, well, they won't be able to get in to begin with, so it's a non-issue.
What do other places do? Because, I mean, obviously doors swing out for emergency access, what do other places do?
We'll lay the panic button type affairs.
So, my question then, I guess, is, what if we took the doors off the hinges for a while? Just left them open, left it open.
For the summer,
But then
For any events.
pickleball wouldn't want that.
Oh, I'm worried about pickleball. I mean, it's just a doorway. And if there's ever an event here, it's just gonna be several.
Then we just leave the doors
Just take
open.
it. But right now, they don't open the right way, or leave them open all the time. Can they lock
Yeah.
open?
They could.
We could lock them open, we could put eye books on them and lock them open.
Problem is in the winter when.
Well, I'm not talking winter.
Yeah,
He's
Just
saying
No,
no,
but if you were to take
Yeah.
them off entirely in the winter, that just blows right through.
Ideally,
Yeah.
because I was doing some looking to try to figure out what options that we might have. Ideally, those doors would swing both ways. You could swing them in and you could swing out. And there are double hinges that you could buy in order to make that happen. That would be the ideal. And then you wouldn't have any doorknobs, handles, anything, you would just have a push plate on either side.
Well, I agree with that part. It should never be able to be locked, ever.
Well, they don't
Just
lock.
push plates.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing,
Yeah.
push or pull, never a locking mechanism
Mhm.
or a hasp or a catch.
And even if we go with that, like, we come back to the issue, and I don't know if it is an issue, but if the doors swing both ways, then with pickleball, like, somebody could go flying through the doors. If they're
Well,
on
the first
doubles.
priority is to have
Safety.
egress, safe and efficient, quick egress in the event of fire or emergency. You've gotta go out to do that.
Or they can
Where
be.
they're hinged, how they're hinged, that's something else to look at. Okay? Just,
Mhm.
but in the meantime, summertime, good weather, maybe we should just get them open and hook them.
That's what I was thinking.
We could do that.
Or even a wedge under the doors.
Yeah.
Say,
You just need a wedge, you
leave them
don't,
open.
just put a sign on to say, please leave doors
Leave
open.
the doors open.
Yeah.
If anybody walks by and they're not open, go over there and put that wedge back in there. Leave them open for a while.
Yep,
Make sure they're-
that's fine.
All right,
Okay,
Paul,
hang on,
fundraising.
hey, wait, can I finish?
We're done.
No! In addition, I also created, a new evacuation plan. I'm gonna give everybody a draft, I wasn't able to get it out in advance of the meeting. What I would ask for you to please do, is if you could please make comments on the sheet that you have, and I'll put a deadline on it so that you sure can. If you could please get any comments that you have back to me by the end of next week, so I can do a final version of it, so that we can post one. We only ever had one posted here, but I think we really need to have one posted at the front door as well. So we'll have one posted at the front door and one in the hallway here where it must be here.
So when you put one at the front door, would you say you are here?
I could include that in there.
No, the front, back, of course, at the front, you are here.
A little bit, and I'm concerned that you don't feel you're reinventing the wheel on this. There's a Potential Fire Safety Act, and there must be people in the government with a lot of boilerplate information we could use without creating it all from scratch.
It's done.
Yeah.
And not with an evacuation plan, you have to.
Well, obviously tweak, but,
Yeah.
but, you know, they're the people that issue the maximum occupancy certificates and all the rest of it, and they're resources. We don't have to do it from scratch ourselves.
Okay,
I just hope you'll be able to access that.
I did some reading on various templates that were available and checked at various websites. There's a lot of them, and basically use the easiest template that there was to work with.
Yeah.
Because it's not simple putting these together. None of these
Well,
templates
no,
are
but-
easy.
But we have the provincial resources and we can access them, and the, as you say, the Fire Prevention Act is in place and all their requirements, so I just hope that you haven't had to really start from scratch.
So when would you like some comments on this?
By the end of next week, if you could, please, I'd like to kind of wrap this up before summer comes.
June 20th.
And then the last was a request with all of the, work that Reggie has done, in creating that space where we have the chairs over on the other side of the stage now. I was hoping that we might be able to get somebody to come in and paint the rest of that red, so that we don't have red into on this side of the building by the kitchen there and into the hallway. Hopefully brighten that up a bit as well. And Reggie has left all of the leftover cans and colors and everything for us.
Do you have enough paint?
I don't know.
Or
I'm not sure, I didn't check, sorry. But just wondering if we could get somebody to come in and paint it.
You don't want to pay part of the
That's the
bill?
people of all people to do it.
Well,
They
you're-
volunteered to paint the main room.
Another 2 weeks?
I know, I'm not painting in
Say,
summer.
there's a lot of people painted the main room, maybe they paint this wall too.
I'm sure we can get someone to help. I like painting.
Yeah.
We're not that often.
Coordinating is not simple.
Yeah.
Everybody's agreeable until they're not available.
Or is there somebody that we could hire just to come in and do that?
I mean, I know I could probably get my son to come in and paint it,
Yeah.
but anyway, so it's just, it's a request.
Yeah.
Who's the son?
Just bringing it up.
His name is Evan Beamish. He's, his dad lives in this area, and he actually posted on Out and About in Murray Harbour, have a kid looking for work. And Shannon saw it.
Oh, they live right here,
Um,
over there.
I'm not sure if he's in the area.
There's 3 boys that are in. looking for
I
work.
know Evan right now is in Summerside at his
Oh.
mom's, so he'll be with his dad for the summer.
So is he taking the summer job?
Yeah, Evan Beamish.
Oh, what's her name?
Willow, no, she went to the fish plant.
Oh, did you?
Did you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I am done, thank you.
Fundraising, Councillor White.
Okay, small halls, there's been a little change in that. It's next Saturday evening as scheduled, but we're not catering to it, so Terry, you were free and Bob is free from making chowders for it, okay? There,
There's only
When's that,
7
that's Saturday, is it?
that's Saturday, the 21st, I think.
And how many people did you say?
We're not catering to
Oh, you're not going?
No,
Oh,
there's only 7 people and 2 of them are gluten free.
well, I don't like gluten-free, but.
Well, and the other thing is, the
Okay.
email that Ann got, it was like, Murray Harbor's the only holdout, we cater every other event except Murray Harbor. I'm like, okay. Put us
So-
on your list.
So small halls in Charlottetown, they provide meals for them, so, but we have to make the biscuit for the audience, so I guess that's my job.
Well, I'm not a baker.
So what changed?
Is
We don't
that-
have to supply.
The change was that we're not having a meal for
For the
them. No,
It's gonna
no,
be catered
I was
instead.
thinking
Oh,
of chowder.
not catering.
I think they should have went with my chowder.
Rob was gonna do his things.
And then
You can make
moving on to Canada Day, I'm getting a little worried about our water slide. I notified this Brenton Cuddy, and he's not getting back to me, and then I notified Debbie Cuddy. And I seen where she read my mail,
Yeah,
but she didn't answer back,
okay.
and that's,
We didn't speak to Chris.
where is he living now?
Oh, we shouldn't broadcast that on a meeting.
Yeah, don't know.
Okay,
But, I mean, you call Levantine Trucking and, maybe talk to him. See if you can talk to his son and what's going on.
yeah,
Or Pam,
put that
right?
name of that truckie. Should be in the, online or something.
It's just this side of Monty.
Yes.
On the left there.
Yeah,
Cause I see the bounce trailer there still, so he's still.
yes. Okay, and everything for Canada Day, other than that, I'm not concerned about. We're getting quite a few bakers for cakes and. we got-
Cupcakes.
You got
We're
quite
not
a,
doing cake this year.
No,
Cupcakes.
for the,
Oh, for the auction, sorry.
but we are not doing a cake for Canada Day, we're doing cupcakes. So Laverne McGinnis did the cakes other years, but she's refused to do it this year. So, anyway, I think
Did we
that's
not
the
say-
start.
Well, if you wanna go with the cake, I'll pay for the cake.
It's not
If you want the cake.
We got it all,
Mine are much more sanitary.
We got it all figured out.
we got it all taken care of.
Yeah, we're all good.
Yeah.
You don't need books, plates, yeah, none of it. No, exactly.
And we have two donations, one for $100 and one for 50, wasn't it? The Beach Point
One was beach point
Fisheries
processing. and-
processing, and the other one was, forgive me.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Anyway, we got $150 to go towards the slide, the water slide. That's all I have to report.
Okay, new business.
Maybe I'll just talk about the promotional item first, and we'll leave item 8 to the bitter end if we could. This is very quick. During our discussions about the Fisher Memorial, the committee, they mentioned about merchandise for the village to be available for sale to tourists and passers through and whatnot. And I just thought I'd leave that with you to think about. We got the pins coming, but maybe we should look at other stuff, like a t-shirt or something like.
You could sell t-shirts and golf shirts and hats.
I got the impression from Jackie at that discussion that she's working with Harsh at the store about like creating a display of local stuff from their market people and, you know, to start to create some local stuff to buy for tourists. So that's where that suggestion came from, is that, you know, we could contribute some t-shirts with their logo on them or that kind of thing.
We do still have the green t-shirts with
Yes.
Shrewsbury Harbour on them.
Yeah,
Well, if Jackie gets us going, maybe we can get them, right?
yeah,
How many of them you get left? The greens.
There's quite a few, I think.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
quite a few, but there's none in, is it large or medium, something like that? One of them is out. We should have had more of them, that size. We got a lot of extra large or something like that, which,
Well, it's almost 8 o'clock, so I
yeah,
just leave it at that.
Mm.
We're gonna try to get something going, and if we-
okay.
I think it might be good to have some promotional items like that.
Yeah.
Might have those keepsakes, whatnot.
And
Bring
a little money.
committee,
Yeah,
Yes.
another committee.
merchandise and marketing,
Mm.
part of fundraising.
Yeah,
do we sell them on July 25th?
Okay. Well, we've only got 5 minutes.
you got,
Well, we can make a motion to extend the meeting.
Yeah, because if we go through Councilor Robertson's email, which it should be addressed, and that's why I sent one of those, it's gonna take more than 4 minutes now.
So we want to extend the meeting to
I don't really want to extend the meeting. Can we go through it quickly? No.
I don't know.
Well,
Let's
you
talk
get a good
about this
answer
one.
then.
You left it to the bitter end. It doesn't have, what are the questions? Happy to address it.
Well, it all came from you, John, so I guess I put it back to you.
Well,
Very first one, very first one, floor replacement.
Yeah. Floor replacement, the last thing we want to do is disturb an asbestos floor or get an engineering report on this building, because that will open a can of worms.
I gotta ask why you didn't mention just during the discussions on all this, John. In the last several meetings, we talked about our capital plans and what we're gonna try to apply for, and I wish you would have said this forward at that time, not, the 11th hour.
Well, even last meeting, we were saying that the floor was in the budget,
Yeah,
and we were basically looking for ways to spend money, and said, oh, a new floor, well, look at the new floor, look at the weight of it, the engineering report, disturbing asbestos, none of these things we want.
well, all I can say, because of time, is I can't disagree with you, but I guess we'll have to look at that floor closer and see, does it really need to be just buffed up and refurbished, or does it need to be replaced?
Well, that's not talking, well, if replacement is a can of worms, but we could try this and see where we get. I've done a test run on my utility room on the floor that went down in 2007. Looks pretty good. Sobeys uses it. It's a commercial product. It's not something we buy at the hardware store. and for sealing it, and because the floor is not broken anywhere, we're not dealing with broken asbestos, and sealing it up, and it's quite usable without spending $31,000.
The actual asbestos is 3 layers down, right? Just so that we're clear, it's not the top layer. Those are not asbestos tiles. The asbestos tiles are 3 layers down.
You've got 3 layers of floor on there?
Yes.
So anyway, I appreciate the comment. I guess we'll just have to take it under advisement, John. It's just, we don't have time to get into all the, and maybe it could be used for acoustics. I don't know about that. The fire safety plan, Pam's addressed that. The rate card, the new card for all categories of users was presented. Why are we still talking about this? Terry mentioned this morning, or earlier today, it's gonna be $3, and is that okay?
Well,
Satisfied with
$3
that?
for-
No, I'm not talking about the $3. Are you satisfied with that? That's been decided. New rate card.
If we have a new rate card, which we approved, why were we having this discussion with pickleball last month? That was my only question.
That was their feedback. That
And
was their response to the change.
also, it's specifically, not everybody pays. We have a rate that everybody pays. I'm just looking with respect to the dog park. I was amazed to hear today we have people from Cardigan, Montgomery, Charlottetown coming out, raving about our dog park, wanting to create a wants and needs list. Why are we getting money from these people?
Oh, don't be silly, John, that's ridiculous. You don't charge for that.
Oh,
Okay.
is it?
But we can't,
Not gonna even.
that's why we've got no time left now.
Or we can
Kitchen,
move it forward to September.
yeah, kitchen renovations, Pam, that's Pam, very wondering why, or where it is, what is designated hand wash station.
There is a designated hand washing station. I spoke to the supervisor with environmental health. She reviewed our most recent report. The only thing that was missing was just a sign above it, and the sign is there now. We have a designated hand washing station.
Okay, next, providing water to the raised gardens. This is Marlene's area now. I talked about it earlier. I don't like your comment about the more suited to a balcony or patio. That's kind of a little there.
I will not accept that comment there.
Well, who put the comment down, sir?
I will not accept your comment.
No, that's your wrong. It's unkempt and obsolete. That's, we talked about that. Garden. Okay,
The
next one.
planters are not long-term, and we're putting in, water, 10,000, well, just went from $3,500 to $5,000 to $10,000 from the start of this meeting till now. And for a long-term installation of the gardens themselves need to be reviewed. Because they are a portable temporary and they have a limited lifespan.
Well, they're in pretty good shape. And we have been meeting with Project Nectar, Marlene has, Southeast Environmental. The soil's been improved. I think they're good for a couple more years.
I hope so.
Yeah. Okay, Fisher's Memorial, the flag. I
Yes.
agree. I don't like it hanging that way much longer myself, so by the end of the fishing season, it will be removed. I have plans for getting perhaps a flagpole. I'm into White's Fabrication and they want $1,200 for flagpole. So I guess we'll put that flagpole up. Anyway, you're right, John, it's coming down. Flowers. Okay, flowers at the garden, very large flower bed. Yes, there is weeds grow in gardens. I understand that.
Shannon has removed them.
And they're looking good, the flowers look beautiful. All right, benches.
Well, I'm just
The
saying.
benches are more suitable for a high-rise balcony. That's quite an opinion, Councilor Robinson. How can you say that? I don't know what a high-rise balcony bench looks like. You want to tell you the truth?
Well, this is an opportunity that we have not missed yet, but let's review. The bench at the memorial, Friendly Circle does wonderful, solid, substantial memorial benches. What better place for one than the Fisher's Memorial? And this would be a project that would be happily, I suspect, accepted and taken on by the seniors, Friendly Circle.
Well, once again, Councilor Robinson, you're a buck late and $1 short. We've already got them made. They're already on site and they've been.
And they're just lovely.
They're
Now, does
lovely.
that keep people from throwing them in the harbor or stealing them? It's insulting. Anyway, I suggest that this meeting has run over its time. There's
no,
no
it's not,
extension.
John.
No.
You don't want to get all these memos out here, very extensive emails. You should
Well, maybe we should have brought them up earlier in the meeting.
Okay,
Councilman McKay.
guys, let's just settle down.
Rubbish
Calm down.
bins need to be installed. I suggest we do not need rubbish bins.
Where you have benches and people who will do rubbish, and some will need to pick up the litter, and I know because I did
Okay,
it for 10
guys,
years.
that's enough.
Not nearly enough.
It's enough, John.
It's enough for tonight.
It is for
Can we,
tonight.
can we adjourn this meeting?
It is adjourned.
Thank you.
Motion to
Moved,
adjourn.
seconded, voted.
Hang on, hang on.
We need a motion to
Need a motion.
adjourn at 8:05.
What time did the meeting start?
6:05.
Six.
Good.
May I have a move?
I'll move.
Seconder?
I second.
All in favor?
Quick, thanks for coming.